Hey guys, welcome. Nice set, guys. Yeah, I want you to listen to this.
Mind with everything that you have, you love somebody. You love with your heart, your mind, with everything that you have, you love somebody. And you tell me of that love. And I accept the words, but have the flower isn't there, the perfume isn't there. You see, sirs, you have leaders, religious leaders and political leaders. I don't know why you have leaders at home, Ramakrishna, whatever gurus that you have had, one after the other, right? This country is full of them. And why do you follow? You understand? If once you realize that you are responsible entirely for yourself, that you are in a jungle, literally in a jungle, where you have to make your own way up, there is nobody to lead you, then you forget all this. The examples, the books, everything, because you've got vitality, strength to go through. But the moment you depend on leaders, you become weak. If once you realize it in your heart, not just intellectually, then you are a man, human being, free to walk straight. But we don't want all that. So, it's so simple when you think of it all. You love with your heart, with your mind, with everything that you have.
That was J. Krishnamurti.
And I accept the words, but the flower isn't there, the perfume isn't there.
We're talking about our leaders that we have in the world and that we shouldn't rely on them because they don't have the love in them. So you have to rely on your own leadership and guidance, which is what we've all had to contend with. I know for my life it's been very, very few leaders in my life to guide me in the right direction. The occasional one pop up, but not a lot. It's been very slim, slim pickings. I was thinking about that the other day in regards to like plant medicines. And with plant medicines, I feel like it's Mother Earth's way of guiding us. Especially when at a time when we've got very few like mentors and guides, people that we can look up to. It's very slim with who you can look up to in this world, and it's, I think, more the last 10 years, especially with the internet, we're starting to get more and more people speaking up and talking their truth, and you can find those people to relate with, where in my upbringing, so the 70s and 80s, had very few influences, like good ones. We sort of had one TV channel and one radio station, and so you're just around your community. But I lived in the country, but there wasn't a community. We still had our little suburban house with our fences, and so it was very isolated. And so I guess if you didn't have the guidance of great people around you and your family, then you're very isolated. So then you're just sort of winging it, and you're flying by the seat of your pants and using your intuition, which you may have already, you may have some, I believe you have wisdom from your past lives. Each life you're learning more and more wisdom. So you have that, but you don't have anything else, no other guidance. So you got to work it all out for yourself, which is a little bit more challenging, but maybe it's more valuable in the long run. Just learning from, learning as you go. The one thing I know I was very lucky to have is the love. Like I had my mother and my sister, who my sister's was a year and a half younger than me. So I had two beautiful women giving me love my whole upbringing, caring about me like that. That having that learning about love, and I guess especially with women, then it's very much a gift for a man to receive. And it's very difficult, I would imagine, for men who didn't receive that when they were children. So they're missing out on, and so they may find it more difficult to come into a relationship when they're older. I don't know. It's definitely maybe it's learned, or it's there, and at least it stays open. Like that love when you're born is pure, and then life sort of throws down, trauma, and it sort of makes that love bubble get smaller and smaller. And so by being around women for me was great, because it kept open that part of me, that love, wanting to love, loving to love. Yeah, so back to plant medicines. This idea that, so we didn't have I didn't have a lot of mentors at all. It was Dr. Phil, maybe Oprah. But fortunately, in the last 10 years, Joe Rogan, I really spent many years listening to his podcast, and that had a huge impact on me. They really introduced me to a lot of people who I never even heard of before, but really interesting people. And that just expanded my horizons, and then I went down those rabbit holes of what those guys were talked about. And so that was having that Joe Rogan podcast really, I think, would have impacted so many humans on this planet. He's done such an amazing job to open people's eyes, and then just his mindset is amazing, because he's always learning new things, and he's always challenging himself, and he gets on. I remember him taking up archery, and then he just did it for still does it, but he became a master at it. He focused on one thing and it made it happen. And I love that attitude that he can basically do anything he wants, and he knows it. And so he's got that confidence, and he's just like, okay, what am I going to do next? That's the decision. That's the tough decision. What next? I have the same thing. For me, I got into kite surfing when was it? 99. 2000. I saw someone kite surfing in New Caledonia. I went there for New Year's for the 2000. So it was the first time I saw someone kite surfing, and just went, whoa, that's amazing, and got into it and did it for almost 10 years, just non-stop, and had a kite surfing school in Thailand for 5 years, and travelled the world kite surfing. It was freaking amazing. was a really cool life experience. But then I got to a point where I had kids and 3 beautiful children. But that since my kids were born, then I stopped kite surfing, and I was cool with that. Like I did it. I really went into it and went as far as I needed to go. Yeah, so what's my point? Where is someone to tell me? I needed my little pen and paper. That would be good, actually. Pen and paper. This is the beauty of live, is that you have a mind blank and you're on your own. There's no one to ask. Yeah. So mentors, we didn't have many mentors, and then I'm going down a tangent of my life there, but the mentors, very few and far between. And that's the state of our world at the moment. And so where else do we get the wisdom from? And I believe like the plant medicines that Mother Earth has given us to keep us awake, to keep us from dropping into a level of consciousness where we, in the darkness, you could say. And so plant medicine, you look at the impact that ayahuasca has had on so many people's lives. My partner, ex-partner of my first son, Hayden, they took ayahuasca and basically quit their jobs, moved to Byron Bay, basically totally transformed their lives from that, I think from just 2 or 3 experiences. And so it's the mother, it's the divine talking to us and teaching us what we need to learn wisdom-wise. And you can learn from it. There's a lot to be learned, but it all has to be done respectfully in that space of asking the divine for wisdom, because we have a lack of wise guys and gals. Wise guys and gals. We have a real lack of those around. And to me that means plant medicines is like the fallback. If the whole world falls apart and we all turn into monkeys again, because we're just surviving, plant medicines will get us back to that spiritual place eventually. There was a theory that plant mushrooms, because of the brain size of the evolution of our species, there's about I think it's 1 million years where our brain size doubles in size, and they don't have an explanation for that. And one theory that I think Terence McKenna put forward was that our ancestors were following the herds around in Africa, and the poo from the cows and these herd animals grew mushrooms, and they would eat the mushrooms, and those psychedelic experiences helped develop the brain, and it helped develop language. Just helped. It's shown that it makes you more acute when you're hunting, like you're fast, you can run. It gives you these advantages when you hunt. So there's all these benefits, and that might have developed our brains the way they needed to be developed, and with the help of the mushrooms, which we are actually. Mushrooms are our forefathers. Forefathers? Yeah, they breathe air just like us, and the fungi are our ancestors. So I'm sure they're trying to help us out however they can. And ultimately, I believe like we're here on this universe to raise our consciousness. That's the whole game. That's the whole game. To reach enlightenment, but enlightenment never ends. Right? You just get to a certain level of wisdom, and then you could call that enlightenment, because you suddenly see around the world and everything's beautiful and you're grateful for everything and you feel joy and bliss and you see the love in the world. And then you want to make the world better, and you want other people to see that what you see. That's enlightenment. You've had light, wisdom come into you, and it's enlightened you. You've got the ideas, you understand the concepts of how the nature of the universe, that there is one consciousness, that we are all playing this game of gods with amnesia. So, but then you reach a certain level of consciousness and wisdom and light, but there's many, many layers above. Never ends, because where is the ultimate end is completeness, the whole of the universe. But there's a long way to get to that point. So that's why there's different levels of gods. You know, we talk about the Anunnaki and like I have no doubt that there's more advanced. There's civilizations out there, and there's many of them. That's what life wants. It's consciousness and expansion and creation, creativity. And so you have different levels of gods, right? As each one goes higher and higher, rises higher. And who knows where those levels of consciousness go. But I think when we talk about the Buddha or Jesus or Zarathustra, like these enlightened men, they were conscious, more conscious. They had more light in them, more wisdom of the truths of the world. And so they would see more truth, and they can see through bullshit, and they can see through lies, because they have an understanding and they have a connection to the universe which allows them to see truth. So then they speak that truth, but it's very hard to explain the truth, if that makes sense. So it's like you have to experience for yourself to understand the truth. And then every apostle or every disciple or every disciple following every master like has listened to that truth, and the idea is that they get that transmission of truth, whether it's through physical contact or just being around someone has more light in them. Yeah, and that's a great segue into building communities, because that's, I think, a very important factor is you have these beings of light in your communities, like people who are like wise ones. You have wise ones in your communities who have that spiritual connection. I think that's how it always was. They had the oracles, and they had the shamans, and they had. But I feel like those people had more say in the running of the city or the tribe. Now, this is something that I'm seeing in this research on the kings and queens. Is like in the past, the kings were priests, and that was part of being a king, is you need to be enlightened, right? Enlightened, or as near to enlightenment as possible. And that way you get good leadership, and you get leaders who can see the truth, can see, like, this idea of that your ruler is your judge. Like, they're the judge, that's the final. Because ultimately every society, kingdom, community has a set of rules. And then when you put those rules in place, then you have to have a court to rule if someone has, done against the rule, or maybe the rule's not sufficient for the society. But you've got to have those rules. And ultimate final say in those rules is the boss, is the guy in charge. So if he's the whatever it is, whatever you want to call him, the guy in charge, the girl in charge. And so that person has to be a good judge, a judge of the truth, to be able to see the truth, to be able to see more than your regular person. And that means then your judge will lead your community in the right way. So it's very important for that person to be a priest. So, and it goes back to what J. Krishnamurti was saying. It's like, that's the problem, is our leaders don't have that. They don't have this priestly, spiritual connection to God that they used to have. And they used to put a large emphasis on that connection, like the Babylonians. And, I mean, you just see the Egyptian, all the hieroglyphs and all the murals that they've got. And this is where I've said before, but that this is where their interpretation is wrong, because all this Book of the Dead ceremonies that they show, I believe is the other way around. It's the ceremony of selecting the right king and queen. That's what they're showing us, the importance, and you can see all the gods that are approving of the king and queen, and it's their journey to being crowned. Because you want all the gods to want those two as your rulers. So they are connected. They have to be very spiritual and very enlightened for them to be as successful as possible, which is what every community, kingdom, country, civilization wants. Is they want their place to flourish in abundance and love and joy and dancing and music and celebrations and beautiful spaces and buildings. I imagine what Babylon once looked like. If we can imagine it as that fairy kingdom where you see just a bubbling city, and people from all over the world come to the bubbling city to experience it. It's sort of like how Paris has been for many people in the world. Like that, maybe the French culture definitely has a lot more culture. They've held on to their culture a lot more than, say, the English. Or maybe the English never had it. I don't know. I think the Anglo-Saxons, the Angles and the Saxons, and I'm sure the Normans when they came in, I think their courts and the way that they governed was not quite as barbaric as we're told. I honestly believe they would have lived good lives. They didn't fight every year. Like there was, and it's hard to see that in history when you're looking at like 300 years and there was 3 battles. It's like, well, they were 50 years apart, or they're even 10 years apart. You can see there's a lot of time in between. And what were they doing during those times? They would have been having a great time. And I don't think the peasants would have been as, like, maybe when there was shitty rulers, and maybe there were times in history where everyone was a shitty ruler. But this is the idea of, like, if you get a king that's, so there's 7 kingdoms in England, with before the Normans came in, so before 1066. 7 kingdoms of the Angles and the Saxons, but eventually they got amalgamated. And to me, the reason why they got amalgamated is because the best king amalgamated them all, and ultimately the other kingdoms are okay with a good king taking them over, because that means prosperity for them too. And I often wonder with in battles, like if the reputation of a king who's invincible and everyone loves him and you can see the adoration from his troops, and then you see there's another army and the king's not quite as confident and has had a few issues, things going wrong, and he just doesn't have the will of the people. Whose army's going to win? Like, it'll be a rout, because to fight for your life, you have to respect the person you're fighting for. And I feel that there's this natural law that when bad kings come along, when you have this free movement, then bad kings get taken away. And especially if you have these open borders and everyone's welcome, you got to get these things, so you accept the people. I'm dreaming up the new world here, where you have countries, but you have, so if a bad country pops up, people just leave. Everything falls apart. That's in an ideal world. This natural balance of good abundance, kingdom, fairy kingdom, and then next door is one that's got a ruler who's not quite as kind to his people. Then where's all those people going to go? They're going to go next door, and that kingdom will shrink, and people will overthrow the ruler. Right? Natural law. And I think that for a king and a queen to get the respect of the people, like, now is never a better time for that to happen, because you can have because of just the media, social media now. Like, there's so much ways for people to find out who the king and queen is. Like in the past, it was all, maybe put a portrait up, but if you have leaders, they should be there shouldn't be any secrets, right? There shouldn't be. Maybe personal life, right? But to a point. Don't know. Never thought about personal life. Anyway, but you've got this ability for the people who want to know who their king is or their queen. They can just follow them around with cameras all day, and you can watch it online. And then everyone can get to know. There's no secrets. And this is the thing, we've got to get to know who our leaders are, especially if we're going to have to vote on them. And now it's not possible. I always love the idea, like Joe Rogan, it's like, get Trump on Joe Rogan, get Biden on Joe Rogan, like get a 3-hour interview with these guys. I guarantee if Biden had went on Joe Rogan before the last election, he wouldn't be president now, because you would have picked up on his degeneration. 3 hours, he's not doing sound bites. And I still don't understand why Biden is still there. Like, why have no one stood up and said, okay, he's not, this is the USA, and there's a lot going on in the world, and he's clearly not got all his faculties now. Like, he's not the man he was 10 years ago. And he was, like, you see him when he's younger, he's sharp. But he's not now, and it's like, so there's no, for the good of the world, let's get rid of this guy. Move him on. Like, he's got to move. We can't afford to have him in power now, making, like, this is the USA, and you've got someone who's got dementia, and no one's speaking up to get rid of him? Why? Why not? Where's people in the US speaking up? Because, to me, it's clear. Everyone can see it. So what's going on? I think people have got, there's way too much, it's like this mind control going on. I don't understand how it works, but it's like a form of hypnotization. A lot of us are hypnotized. And to break those spells, and in a way they are a spell, I guess the first thing to do is for people to talk up about it. So here I am, talking my truth. May you get gains out of it. Yeah, so what are we doing with our leaders? I still really want to do a worldwide peace protest, like peacefully, with no aggression, pure love coming from a high vibration state, and just having white flags, putting white flags everywhere, white clothing, white profile pics, just white everything. And we say, we surrender to, we don't need to fight anymore. We are able to negotiate. We have enough consciousness, and we have enough wisdom, and we have enough wise people that can come together and create negotiation and create solutions. Like, falling into a war is so primitive. And look what's happening. It's causing so much destruction. So, I know getting to that time when we're of no wars anymore, hopefully it's not far away. But what we need to do is at least talk about peace. And now is the best time for us all to talk about peace, because we need to have peace. We can't allow World War III to start. We can't have people throwing nuclear weapons around. It's just going to cause havoc on this planet. So much havoc. Like, why are we not talking about this? Look at the destruction that's possible if someone accidentally shoots a missile. We have to start talking peace, and we have to acting peacefully. And I don't like the word protest. I would say voicing our feelings. Voicing our feelings with flags and with the white. We need to express how we feel about this. And TikTok must have over 1 billion people. And YouTube, it's like, let's do these viral campaigns for peace. And I want to see all the Chinese waving these white flags around, saying we don't want to fight either. We just want to live in peace, and we want to be prosperous, and we want the world to be a beautiful place for everyone who's here. Like, if the whole world could come out and say that, it's like we are one. And we're on one planet, which is a very amazing, beautiful planet. I often say I wish we could find out what all the other planets look like in our galaxy. Because I just know that like Earth is one of the best. It's the most beautiful, and it's got the most amazing animals, and it's got so much diversity, and it's just beautiful wherever you go, everywhere you look. We're living on a magical planet, and we need to protect her for us, our children, but for all the animals, all the amazingness. Yeah, we need to protect her, so we need to protest for peace. And it all comes down to connecting one another again. So this could be amazing to bring people back together again, like a big peace worldwide movement where we all show the world what we really want. We're all got enough wisdom now to see what we want. And yeah, well, now's the time to do it. Yeah, so let's do it. Let's do it. I'm just thinking how I'm going to do it. This is a good start, talking about it. And then I'm going to do another TikTok video saying exactly that. I've done 2. I got like 120 views each. So, but it's out there, and this is the fear. This is my belief on life is that like, if you want to do something, you don't have to be ready. You just like have a little. I wonder if someone knocked. Hello. No, maybe it was the sheep. We got 2 beautiful sheep. Yeah, so the key for me is just to start. Like, I started doing podcasts 1.5 years ago, and I just started. And they were pretty wild and all over the place, but just starting is you just start to, okay, I need this equipment. How do I plug it in? So it's like learning all the steps just by taking that first little step, even if you're not ready. And eventually you take another step, and you just get closer and closer to your goals. You don't know how you're going to get to the goal. That's That's the fun of it all. That's the joy of living in this world, is like, okay, I have a goal. How I get there, I've got no idea. Like, I've got so many goals, like dreams. So how to get there? Wow, I don't know. But I have this faith that the universe is guiding me there. Because my dreams are all from love. And that's what the universe wants, is love and creativity. To go, to expand. That's what she wants us to be, creators. Like, loving creators. She doesn't want us to fall into this world of death and destruction. And we don't have to be there. We can step out of that world. And it's just purely a matter of understanding and gaining more wisdom. And when you get enough wisdom, you realize my brothers are everyone on this whole planet. We're all just experiencing life in different ways. Yeah. And so when everyone gains that, so that, yeah, the peace movement would bring us together. It would be an excuse to bring us together. We can start to talk and say, hey my brother, hey my sister, how goes it? What's your life been like? What's your experience? What magic can you tell me about? Maybe you can cook me a beautiful meal from your culture. Yeah, that is then the magic. You gain that wisdom of no one is a threat. Everyone is our brothers and sisters, all expressing in a different way. And then once you see that, then it's like everyone is a wonder. So, whoa, who is this person? Wow, look at their beautiful skin color. Look, it's very different to my skin color. And look at their characteristics and the way they move or the way they talk. What about that language? How do they like move their bodies? What do they wear? Like we're all so unique. So unique. And so when you start to see that, there's no jealousy. You see them for the magic that they are. And yeah, you drop that comparison. You become, accepting of everyone's individuality. And that's a beautiful place to be. And then whenever you walk outside, you never know who you're going to meet. Some interesting character. That's why I always love, like, when I catch Ubers. Uber was good because you're running into people you would never cross paths with usually. Like unless you're an Uber driver, right? It's just like different walks of life. And then you get 10 minutes, 20 minutes to chat with them. I find that interesting. And you can learn about another part of the world. It's just a matter of shifting consciousness. Just to make people aware of like some truths. And when you bring everyone into that truth, you suddenly have a different world. Like the world we're in now is this, and Australia is very lucky, I believe, that we still, you can still leave things around and no one will steal them. But I believe in most of the world now, wouldn't leave any possessions around because they get stolen. And that, to me, is a real commentary on our society. Like, that is, you don't want to get to that point. You need to have the trust of the people. We all have to come together, and under trying conditions, if a group of people that are lovingly connected or have a common purpose, or like, they're gonna come together better than, like, if, like, at the moment our cities, we're all so disjointed. How do we come together? No one knows how. Right? It's no one knows how, and it's all going to be everyone for themselves. Now we need to have. I hope it's not that way. I heard a story during the Great Depression. One guy had said it was actually the best time of his life because they formed this community, and everyone came together. And so I feel that will happen as well. If things don't, if things break down, or there's pressures on our logistics system, like the food systems, fuel, all these type of things, people are going to have to come together. They're going to have to come together in build communities, and that's probably would work out like in the neighborhoods. You could imagine some key parts of the city would really find strong communities. Yeah, interesting. But yeah, if you have so that's to me that's a bad marker on a society when you can't trust a stranger to not steal your things. Like, we've gone too far now for that. Like, it's common, everyone just thinks it's normal, but it's not normal. Respect and trust are possible in a group of people living together, whether it's 1 million people or 100 people. It's all possible. But it all depends on how you structure society and what respect you give to the people. What effort do you make on healing them? What efforts do you make on raising their vibration, their wisdom? What efforts do you teach them the right things for wisdom, for freedom? Like, all these things the society can do to help with educating and guiding your citizens. Like, that's the number one priority. Are your citizens joyful? Are they happy? Are marriages staying together? What's the divorce rate? Like, that's another good KPI. Key performance indicator of a nation state. How many divorces? How many marriages? I always said about Mindful Earth here, that was the measure of our success, was how many couples that hooked up. And there's been a few that had really great relationships. Well, I'm not sure if they're still together or not, but yeah, they met here, and that's cool. So that's a KPI, marriages and divorces, and you just all the time, just like they did in the old days. You have the Olympic Games once a year, where everyone runs around showing off their strength and beauty and artistic talents, just like Bali. The Balinese do ceremonies all the time. Like, you create that society where you're celebrating. Again, a big part of I think one of the big problems is we've lost any knowledge of all this. Well, we don't know anything about our past societies. It's all very basic information. We don't know anything. Like the Greeks. I got a book over there, Greeks and Romans, and like they were amazing. They did amazing things. And the Romans as well for a while too. I think they got a bit corrupted towards the end. But they had amazing nations. We don't know anything about it, so we don't even know that it's possible. We've got 10 more minutes of talking. So, what else can we talk about? I've been looking into my ancestry. I just signed up for ancestry.com, which is pretty cool. And got a membership again. I'd done some work on it about... sorry. I did some reading, some research a couple of years ago and built my tree. And now I just want to go back further. Because I realised my mum's side, the Wynn, comes from Wales, and that's the Gwynedd kingdom. So Wynn, my family name, comes from that Gwynedd. They dropped the G and the D at the end, which spells Wynn, which is my family name. But that's pretty cool. So I was just researching that and trying to find out more information. So I've got, from my mum's side, the Wynn line to about 1800. And then, but then there's a lot of information out on the web about the Wynns and the kingdom of Gwynedd. So I'm looking into that further. But the other interesting thing is my father's name, Morell, Murrell. Its original spelling is Morel, and it's like a Norman name that came in with the William the Conqueror when they came into England. And there's a couple of references to Morell in Norfolk, and there was a guy called Ackroll Morell in the 10th century who was the steward of Benburrow Castle, which is one of the northern castles near Scotland. So, and there's a story of how the King of England, his master, had betrayed the King of England. So the King of England turned up with an army, and the boss left of the castle, and Ackroll Morell and the lady of the ruler stayed, and they held the king out for like a week. And the king it's even made a note saying that the king was impressed with this guy's abilities. So the king didn't have him killed. He, I don't know what happened with him, but yeah, and then there's another story of him where he had killed the King of Scotland, Malcolm III, Canmore. So that's really interesting. But then so I was trying to link up that Morell with the Morels, and there's an interesting connection. It's sort of like Norman name, Norman people, and so just trying to connect those two dots on both sides of the family. For me, I have a strong feeling of this, some really interesting things there. I had the interesting thing, if you want to hear an interesting story, a coincidence, but the Benburrow Castle is where Ackroll Morell was. He was the steward of Benburrow Castle. And then I follow the wind, my mother's side, down, and there's an old fairy tale about a dragon and the winds his father and son and the daughter. And the daughter is, the father finds a witch in the forest, brings her back to the castle and is in love with her. And she doesn't like the daughter, so she turns the daughter into a dragon. And the son was away fighting or doing something, and he came back and he realized that that was his sister. So he didn't kill the dragon, he kissed the dragon 3 times, and she turned back into the sister. It's a really interesting story. But the crazy thing is that it's the winds in the fairy tale. The dragon is in Benborough Castle, which is exactly the same castle where my father's side possibly comes from. Anyway, I like to look at clues of history, so I'm looking further. But there seems to be the Morale name seems to have been, it disappeared. And it's interesting because morale, I always said moral, but morale is the morals, right? Mores means rules for societies, rules for to make, but they're the morals, like the good morals. Morals is, what's a good morale is to be kind to your neighbours, be loving to your children. Like, I guess they're morals, the morals of the story. So yeah, what is the connection? I don't know, but I feel that there's a connection, and especially because of what my interests are. Like, why am I so interested in communities and building societies and history and making better worlds? I wonder how much is in my genetics, in my genes. Building kingdoms. Yeah, but from a loving place. I wonder. But yeah, there's some really interesting little tidbits of morale history. I'll tell you a really interesting one. Balmoral Castle in Scotland. So Bal means home in Gaelic. Morale, home of morale. Like, there's this Ackroll Morale, I believe, he's quite influential in his time. But there's no history, it just sort of disappears, but I don't understand how that could happen unless it was removed. But yeah, Balmoral, home of morale, is where the Queen's residence is now. What the hell? Why? And I called myself Beau Morale. I changed my name to Beau. So it's like, what? I just love, is the universe trying to tell me something? So I've been down this rabbit hole of just learning about history and about kings and queens and all these cool things. It's like, why am I the only one interested in this stuff? I ask myself. Anyway, I'm having fun. That is the secret to life. Have fun. Have fun, enjoy. And you know what? That's almost an hour on the dot. So I'm gonna end now. I should, going forward, I'm gonna have a little something that I'd like you to listen to. Some wise sage advice. Let me find one.
Public education is a scam.
On TikTok. You believe me, I'll find one. Hang on, I'll put. Here we go.
There's a famous saying which is called Gui Shou Fu Shin. Demon's hand, Buddha heart. It's an old Shaolin saying. Develop the demon hand, while at the same time maintain the Buddha's heart. Demon and Buddha, you might say they are both very two different sides. Yeah, you need both. You need both. Demon hand, demon heart, no good. Then you are going to become a threat for this world. Demon hand,